The NFL may be in a lockout, but college football is continuing as planned, and you can read about Maryland's first spring under Randy Edsall, the new coach at CSNBaltimore.com. Matt Zenitz's latest blog entry is about Terps quarterback Danny O'Brien, the reigning ACC Rookie of the Year. You can read that and more from Matt Zenitz at CSNBaltimore.com. Matt Zenitz joins us right now. Matt, how are you?
Good. How about you, Stan?
Good. I didn't read that as well as I know your pieces.
Well, you never read my stuff.
What is your thought on Randy Edsall to start off with?
Well, I think that Randy has come into a very good situation, similar to when Ralph came in. I guess it was back in 2001. I think this has the potential to be a very, very good year for the University of Maryland. A lot of returning pieces, obviously. Danny O'Brien, even though for the course of last week, during a conference call this week, Randy Edsall said that there's a little bit of competition at the quarterback position, but I do like the returning pieces. I like Danny O'Brien. I like some of the receivers, the young receivers, and I think they have some pieces defensively as well.
So you think as when Vanderlinden left and Friedgen came in,
Ralph had that tremendous first year.
He had that tremendous first year.
Yep.
You think they're primed for that?
Yep, I think they have a chance to really compete in the ACC.
Before we move on to talk about the NFL draft, a guy you wrote about a lot was City College wide receiver Adrian Coxon, who went to Florida, correct? And he was one of those over-recruited guys, where they sign extra guys. He got down there, realized he wasn't the big man on campus, and came to Maryland.
Yep.
Is that going to fit?
Yeah. One of my early blog entries as far as Maryland, kind of previewing spring practice, it looked at some of the players that were primed to break out. And at the top of that list, Adrian. I think he, with Torrey Smith leaving, Adrian Cannon graduating as well, that they're going to be looking at some of those younger receivers, Kevin Dorsey, Kerry Boykins, and somebody like Adrian to step in and really provide options for Danny O'Brien and Gary Croton's spread offense.
What kind of offense? So Gary Croton is a spread offense.
Yeah, this is going to be a pass-oriented attack.
Okay. And was that the sort of the rap on Randy, is that he didn't have an explosive offense at Connecticut?
Yeah, Coach Edsall is very much a defensive-minded coach. And actually, Coach Croton got a lot of criticism at LSU as well, even though in talking to him some leading up to spring practice, he attributed a lot of that to the fact that Les Miles at LSU was very much about, I guess, the same mentality as the Ravens, where let the defense win games and the offense just have them not make mistakes and put it in the hands of the defense. So he's excited to have this opportunity as well and is looking to be a lot more explosive than he was at LSU.
Well, I will tell you one thing about Randy Edsall. Got to meet him a few weeks back at a couple events. If you were doing central casting for a football coach, the handsome young football coach, he really fits the part. Yeah. He's a handsome guy.
Sure, I appreciate that.
Just as you are, Matt Zenitz.
I appreciate that, too.
Matt, one of the things that people know you for in town, though, is your knowledge of the NFL draft. It is coming off as planned April 28th, 29th, and 30th. Yep. First of all, how do you like that new format that started last year?
I like it. That way you're not sitting in front of the TV for all hours of the day, but puts a lot more emphasis on the first round, obviously the second and third round, the second day of the draft, and then separating. I do like that format, and it gives you 3 days to enjoy that whole process.
And breathe a little bit,
yeah.
And breathe and seep it in. One of the criticisms a lot of fans and some media that claim they know this stuff is that, well, yeah, Ozzie does terrific with the first round, but, he's got a lot of busts below that, especially second round. Do you buy that? Do you view him as one of the top, say, 5 executives in the game who knows the draft?
I do, but I understand the criticism because early on, you look at that success not only in the first round, but also later on, even names like Dallas Thomas in the 6th round, DeJuan Landry in the 5th round. Ozzie and company, not only with first-round guys, obviously like Ray Lewis and Jonathan Ogden and the Peter Boulwares and all, they had success later in the draft and were able to have a lot of success based on that later-round talent that eventually turned into starters. If you look at recent years, and I think since 2006 especially, they haven't had that same kind of success, not only in the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th rounds, but also the 2nd and 3rd round. And that's a push with the exception of Ray Rice, but especially this year, with as many needs as they have, they need to have success in the later rounds.
I would agree with you. That was kind of the time frame where Phil Savage left. Is Eric as strong as Phil in that second role to Ozzie?
I think Eric is one of the top minds in football.
All right. Let's look at this draft. We're not going to go through all the players or anything like major, but where's this draft strong?
Well, it fits well for the Ravens because the Ravens, and I know I mentioned that they do have a lot of needs. One of those top needs is getting another pass rusher aside from Terrell Suggs. And I think this draft is very top-heavy in pass rushers, and a year where somebody like Ryan Kerrigan or Justin Houston may go in the top 15 to 20 because of how strong it is on pass rushers at the top of the draft. I think some of those guys have the potential to slip and maybe fall to the Ravens at 26.
One guy I do know about is Craig Ironhead Haywood out of Ohio State, his son. What do you think of him, and is he a guy that the Ravens might consider?
He is, because not only...
What's his first name?
Cameron.
Cameron.
He's a 5 technique, a 3-4 defensive end, just like Muhammad Wilkerson out of Temple, who somebody else, because it's so top-heavy in terms of defensive linemen and those pass rushers that I mentioned. Some of those guys who in most years would go in the top 15 to 20 have a chance to fall. But Cameron Hayward, somebody that's very strong against the run, but at the same time, not only is he stout holding up at the point of attack, but he can also supply a pass rush as well, just like Muhammad Wilkerson, who I mentioned. So those 5 technique defensive ends I think will be of interest to the Ravens, because not only do they need help opposite Terrell Suggs, but they also need a pass rusher in the defensive line spot as well.
All right, we'll get you on afterwards to wrap up the draft. Matt Zenitz, always a pleasure. Inside PressBox is presented by Maryland Mutual Mortgage. Contact them at mdmutual.com for the best mortgage to fit your needs.